Children's Day in Japan, part of the Golden Week holidays. And this is Seek Sustainable Live. Or Seek Sustainable Japan. I am JJWalsh in Hiroshima, and today we're talking with Ed in Nagano. Thank you so much for joining, Ed.
Good morning, JJ. Thanks for having me. It's a beautiful day here in Nagano.
Oh, good. And you're going to show us around in a minute. I'm really excited to walk around with you. Now, just to give people a background, Ed and I met at the amazing Minka Summit in rural Kyoto about a week ago. And I was so impressed, Ed, with all the projects that you're doing and all your insights on Minka. So you're going to show us around your Minka and then take us to another Minka that you've been working on, right?
The other one's not a Minka. We do have two other Minkas. One of them is somebody's renting it at the moment. I don't want to just go into their house without, but they're away. So we have two other properties that we rent out at low rents to try and allow people to come and check out village life in the countryside and winter, especially, in the hope that they will then stay here long term, maybe buy a house in the village. So I'm going to show you one of those, which is a young lady's renting at the moment, and give you a quick walk through our village as well. Yes.
That sounds great. Yeah. Do you want to show us around your house a little bit first?
Sure, I'll try. I'm on my phone, so the limitations are there. But so this is kind of the room that we have, which is our winter room, which is the warmest room in the winter with a nice big pellet stove. Hang on, let me turn some lights on. There we go.
Nice. And you did the double pane glass windows, right?
Double glass windows, 30 centimeters of insulation above the ceiling, underfloor insulation as well. So it's kind of a living bedroom because there's just the two of us and the dog. So this is the room that we keep Toasty in the winter, and this is where we spend most of our time in the winter. And for anyone that hasn't already met her, that's our dog, Iwa-chan.
Hello, Iwa. She's gorgeous. She's a rescue dog too, right?
She's a rescued Tosa, yes. She was a puppy mill for fighting dogs that they were going to put down because she couldn't have babies anymore. So we rescued her from Saitama.
Yeah, she's a lovely dog. I had a chance to meet her, and she was kind of like the mascot of the Minka Summit. Everybody wanted to meet her.
She seems to be the mascot wherever she goes. She's become the village mascot as well.
I think in the poster we have the great picture of you snowboarding, walking her. So she's famous in your village too, right?
Yeah, so Nozawa is one of the few ski joes in Japan, if not the only one, I think, that you can take a dog up in the gondola. You pay 500 yen and take the dog up, and then you can ride down. Now, if you've got a little dog, you can also carry little dogs on the smaller lifts as well. But obviously, she's 60 kilos, so for us, it's a one-time trip. We go up to the top of the gondola, and then we ride down to the bottom. It's about 7 kilometers. It's really good fun. She's exhausted when we finish, but yeah, it's really good fun and really unusual way to spend the day.
To be able to run your dog when such a big dog, such a big area is so nice, right?
Yeah, she loves it. She loves the mountains. The mountains here. We let her off the lead and she goes, and then she comes back once we whistle. Yeah, she loves it. Absolutely loves it. She's awesome. living her best life in Nagano for sure.
That's awesome. Now you did did you do plastering and any fixing of the wood inside?
We did all the wood. So everything was typically, as anybody that's bought a Minka or looked at Minkas in Japan will know, when you look at them at the moment, they're covered in like fake plastic wood and drop ceilings, and they're pretty showy all over really. So we ripped all the fake plastic wood off and raised the ceilings back up to these beautiful wood ceilings. Exposed all the beams, sanded down all the beams. They've all been stained and oiled. The plaster, we had our first go at shikui on plasterboard walls, on Chichikabe walls. I can understand why people get paid good money to be professional plasterers. It's not easy, that's for sure.
You get better as you go along, right? So you look at the first wall that you did and you're like, I need to redo that. but the fifth wall, maybe I got a bit better, you know?
But we in the end, we went with kind of a wabi-sabi textured pattern. And we kind of like it. It's not perfect, but very few things in Kominka are perfect. So it kind of goes with the whole theme.
Did you add insulation in the roof or the floor?
The floor space has 8 centimeters of insulation underneath, and then plywood, vapor barrier, and then the flooring. And then there's about 30 centimeters of insulation above the ceiling.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
You did a big kitchen remodel. It looks like the bathroom toilet as well. Is that right?
Yeah. So this is the main living. So this is the room we've probably done the least with, although we did insulate the floor, and we did the ceilings recently, and put some new walls in and plastered and painted. Same deal. Fantastic views and double glazed windows out over the village. This one's a little office that my wife's in at the moment. And then we're going through towards the back of the house. We've got a walk-in closet.
Big. Is it a 2-floor or 1-floor house?
It's 1 floor, but it's kind of a complex. So this is the back of the house, and if I open the back door,
oh,
basically what they did was there's a very old and beautifully conditioned kura on the right hand side, and then there's a massive double level garage out the back, and they join them all together with a walkway, so in snow season you can walk from the front where the road is into the house without going through the garden and the snow.
That's very smart.
It's very, very smart.
Especially because I saw the pictures of you with the big snow blower. It looked like you had a lot of snow to deal with.
11 meters this year. Yes.
That's a lot.
A bit of snow blowers here generally cost more than people's cars. They're more important for sure. And it's one of the biggest considerations if you're moving to this part of the world. So the snow really is difficult. And it's also a massive consideration when you're buying a property. Some properties are easier. Some properties are really hard. If your roof doesn't self-clear, you are going to be on the roof very regularly, shoveling snow off the roof. If your yards and the driveway is really long, you haven't got any covered parking, then there's going to be a lot of digging your car out and a lot of time spent with the snowblower here. So we've made a lot of changes to this.
I remember you saying that about the roof. I'll show a picture of the house. So it has this nice, beautiful slanted roof.
Yeah.
But you said you have to get up on the roof and get the snow off. Otherwise, it'll collapse. Is that right?
The first one you showed was our starter Minka, our first house in the village. That one is self-shedding completely, so all the snow just slides off. The current house, which was the second picture you showed, most of that is self-shedding, but we kept some snow stoppers on there in the area above the genkan, so there was no danger of people stepping outside and being crushed by snow falling off the roof. So those little areas we have to get up there and we clear off by hand, but we've made it so much easier. Last year, I had both properties to deal with, and this house had snow stoppers all over it, so I had to dig this roof out completely. Never again. Never.
And then you have this cute little funky house. Is this another one that you've taken on?
So that's the house we're going to go and see. That's Roy-chan's place. That's the funky cottage, as we call it, and that is completely self-shedding. As you can see, the roof's definitely made for winter.
Yeah, it seems like a good shape too. Let it drop off.
It all just falls off really nicely.
Yeah, nice. Anything else you want to show us in your house before you head out?
Sure. The one of our big themes when doing the house has been sort of recycling and reusing. So there's a thing in a lot of Kominka in this area. I don't know if it's a whole Japan thing, but it's a rice storage container called a Kamibidsu. So it's like a huge wardrobe with wooden slats down the front. And we had 2 in this house, and it's really nice wood, and I didn't want to get rid of it, so we reused the slats to make this floor.
Oh, how cool is that? It has the writing on it.
Yeah, that was hard. I had to sand around it and then remark it as well. And then over here in the corner, you might have got to see because it's quite dark. But this is the little slots that they use to take the rice in and out. So reused the slots there, and then we've built this entire kitchen out of the rest of it, basically.
That is really cool.
We used some more slats for the doors. I mean, kitchens are often a big consideration when it comes to the financing for a house and stuff. And with a bit of time and a bit of recycling and a little bit of help from a friend of mine, we built the entire kitchen for $400. So
$400. So that's yonman,
Yonman,
40,000 yen.
including the wooden slabs for the top. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So people are always asking about how much it costs to renovate a Kominka. If you do some of the work yourself and if you recycle, it doesn't have to cost too much.
So I'll just show some of the before pictures of your house. So this was the before living room.
Yes.
And then the before clutter. Now inside the before clutter, like I see some furoshiki and other elements that you could probably keep and reuse, but you probably had to throw out a lot, right?
About 5 tons from this house, yeah.
And then the before kitchen. So you kind of changed it around, added more wood instead of the plasticky stuff. It looks a lot nicer.
All the wood that's there in the ceiling.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I mean, all the wood that's there is the original wood, basically. It's stuff that we've actually just removed the horrible coverings and then just opened it up. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of grinding. It's a lot of sanding. It's a lot of varnishing. It's a lot of work, but worthwhile.
This is the before shed. So maybe this is where the walkway is. Anyway, I like that wooden barrel in the side of it, and I was wondering if you kept the barrel. It looks like an old like shoyu barrel or miso barrel or something like that.
Miso barrel. We've got loads of them.
Yeah.
If you want one, come and pick one up. We've got loads.
I'm coming. It'll be only 9 hours drive.
When I was talking about the Kamibidsu, just in case anybody doesn't know what it is, that's the frame of our second one, which we've basically kept in place and used as a massive, very, very fancy wood coat rack in the Genkan.
That's really beautiful. I love that you reuse the wood. Fantastic.
My wife says I've got a serious wood problem, and she's probably right. So, do you want to take a walk through the village?
Huh? Yeah, let's go.
Just quickly, this is the outside of the house. So that's the main house.
Did you put like a stain on the wood? Because the before pictures, the wood looks really dry and damaged.
Yeah, so I had to wire brush all of it, and then it's got 2 coats of like an outdoor stain on it to try and protect the wood. And then that is the kura.
So this is your same property, these buildings as well?
Yeah, so this is basically the courtyard where the 3 properties meet. So that's our garage. It's a double 2-story garage with like an office space above and then garage and workshop below. And then that's the kura, which one day will become an apartment when I've got the time and energy. And then this is the house. Yeah.
Great. And did you have to do any major repairs on the roof or any?
The roof was good.
Expensive things?
The windows were the most expensive part.
How much was the sale and the remodel cost? Can you give us a ballpark?
So because I did most of the work myself, and we've still got some to do, but buying the place and remodeling has cost us so far about 8 million yen.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. Where else can you get a massive property with with this view for 8
No,
million.
because it includes all the land around, right? It's not just the house is basically free usually, right?
Yep.
You're just buying the land. That's great. Do you grow any vegetables? Have any farmland as well? No.
We have little bits of farmland that we could use, but we're totally not farmers. So the deal is with the people in the village, they grow more than enough vegetables for anybody in the world to use. So they provide us with vegetables, and I bake scones and other stuff every now and again and go and drop it off with them.
That's awesome. I saw you with a bunch of potatoes, and you said your dog was going to eat it. They look like good potatoes.
Iwa eats a lot of potatoes, and one of the neighbors had planted too many, couldn't be bothered to dig them up, so they came and told us, and we dug them up, and we basically kept them for the dog. Yeah. So we're going down the steps now. So
Okay.
we're going into the valley at the front of our house. This is part of the village, and then over there in the distance, you can see the little funky cottage. That's where we're going to head to.
Oh, nice. And it looks like rice fields in between?
Yep, it's all rice paddies and hatake, so agricultural land around here.
And you said you're in like a really rural area of Nozawa. There is Nozawa Onsen is more touristy or populated, right?
Yes, so we're 5 minutes down the valley, down the hill from the main Nozawa Onsen village, but we still have the Nozawa Onsen postcode. And yeah, property prices in the village it's pricing everybody who's not an investor basically out of living there. And we kind of, it's kind of enclosed as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful town, and definitely worth a visit, but it's kind of enclosed. There's a lot of people living very close to each other, very narrow streets, very traditional. So we kind of like the open space of being down here in the village. And obviously property prices are way, way, way lower.
Yeah.
But we're still fun.
Now you were talking about your
no problem.
Yeah. You're cutting out a little bit. I wonder if your connection will pick up when you're at the next property. You've frozen a bit there. Can you hear and see okay, Ed?
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah, that might be it.
I was
We were losing you.
Second, so I'm...
Yeah. Cutting out. We can't really hear you. I'll show a picture again. This is the cute little house that Ed is aiming towards right now. Can you see and hear us okay, Ed? You coming back? Yeah, I hope you have...
I'm not.
Okay.
I keep losing you.
Yeah, I think maybe... I hope your funky cottage has some Wi-Fi. Maybe you'll pick it up there. Yeah, you've frozen. Let me show some pictures of Ed's place. So he was showing us his place that he's living in now. Behind the tree, you can see the other buildings in the property. He says he's got a storage house, another house he wants to make into a guest house. And then the house in the foreground is the one that he's remodeled and they're living in. And it's connected by a walkway. Oh, it looks like we've lost him completely. Maybe he'll come back soon, I hope. But the pictures, this is an after picture of the bathroom remodel that he did. So he did, sounds like most of the work by himself and with a friend. They did a beautiful job on the white plaster walls, on it was the original wood, but they varnished it and polished it and sanded it down. So they did a really beautiful job with that. Here's some other photos after. So one of the things that was interesting to talk with Ed about at the Minka Summit was that he took over not only his own property, he was saying just now that he bought the property, the land, and did the remodel for about 8 million yen. So really, really good price for that big area. And then when we met at the Minka Summit, he was saying that he took over 2 other properties and did some renovations on it in order to rent it out so that people could try out living in a Minka in Nagano. And I thought it's such a great idea. It's a great way for people to go and stay in an old Minka and see how they like it. Oh, he's back on the computer. So we lost you on the phone, but you're back on the computer. Thanks, Ed. Can you hear us? Did you run back?
Yes, I'm knackered. Sorry about that.
No, that didn't work. It was a good experiment. Thanks for coming back to us. Yeah.
That's all right, no problem.
So I was just trying to tell about the houses that you took over. So you took over, besides your own house, which you bought and renovated for 8 million yen, then you took over 2 other properties. Is that right?
So the one with the steep roof you showed?
Yeah.
That was our original house? No, the other one, the black roof.
This one. Yep.
Yes. So that was our first house when we moved here. It's a long uphill run.
Sorry. So this was your first house, and you said you didn't have any major repairs on the places, so the roof was intact. Just the windows were the biggest expense. Is that right?
On this current one, yeah. So on the first one there, so that's an original 100-plus-year-old Minka. And then the previous owners jacked it up 2 meters.
Yeah.
The entire house. It's amazing.
That's amazing.
So they didn't live there in the winter, so they needed it to be winter-proofed, basically.
A lot of houses in Hawaii, and you see around Asia in the tropics as well, they put up the house to keep it cool. What would be the purpose of putting up the house in a cold place like Nagano? Is that for more insulation to keep it warm?
Because they didn't live there in the winter, they basically wanted to be able to leave it and the snow not do any damage.
Oh, okay. And then have parking underneath.
So the underneath is 100 square meters of workshop and parking, yeah.
Wow. And how much was this property?
It probably owes us about the same sort of money after we did the renovation, because we opened the roof up, and we built one bedroom up in the roof space, insulation.
Is that this one where
that's the one in the roof space, yeah.
Beautiful. So you exposed the beams and you did plastering, is that right?
So this one is exposed beams, and most of the plaster work is plasterboard. Because underneath that is kayabuki.
Kayabuki is?
Thatch.
Thatch. Oh my goodness.
So behind that is 30 centimeters of thatch, all soaked in 100 years of soot.
And then is that the same property?
That's the same room.
Same room.
Yeah.
So did you replace the windows up here as well?
There were no windows there originally, but we needed light for the room. And luckily there's an exposed area on the one side of the house. So we put some windows in there. Yeah, that turned out, that's really, I mean, it's increased the square meter of the house by 30% by adding that upstairs.
And is this original wood flooring? The wood looks good.
The wood, I did a demolition job for a guy last year who was smashing down an old minchku, and I recycled that wood from there, yeah.
That's awesome. That's so great, right? To find these high quality materials that would cost you a fortune if you bought it new, right?
How much of that minchku got scrapped that was reusable? I just didn't have the space or the time to save it all. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah. And then I have a picture of the garden, the outside, and you can see the old wood before you did the treatment on the wood and the windows. So this was the before shot outside of your house, right?
The current house, yes.
So did you do anything to the garden?
Not yet. That's the next. Well, I mean, I've obviously given it a beaver, trimmed it down, but that's the next big job, is getting the garden. It's kind of wild at the moment, so trying to make it a bit more usable for barbecues and stuff. But
here's the after, so you can see how the wood looks so much better.
Yes, and it's got a longer
job.
life ahead of it now. It's been restained and stuff. So
yeah, it looked in the before picture like it was not going to last too much longer.
The house has been empty for 8 years when we moved in. So.
Okay, that makes sense. And then tell us a little bit about the funky house that we had to give up on visiting. So yes.
So the first house you saw was the one with the black roof. That's the one we've just been talking about, the jacked up Minka. That was our first house when we moved to the village 2.5 years ago. Okay. We loved that house, but it didn't have the countryside views that we really, really wanted. And when we were walking the dog, we found this house. Exactly. And we were very wowed by the views. And I'm a big fan of Kura. So we hustled a bit and managed to get in touch with the owners, who weren't going to sell it, but then in the end sold it to us. So we moved out of the first house into this house after spending 8 months every day doing renovations. And now in the first house, that's now one of our rentals. So there's a really nice family renting there that I hope will stay in the village. That's the one. Family of 5, real nice people, work remotely. Hopefully they'll buy somewhere in the village. And then while all this was going on, 2 other properties became available in the village. And so that's the funky cottage that you showed a picture of, the one with the steep roofs. So that was originally a beso, so a second home. And it's attached to a Kominka next to it. Not attached physically, but attached by a family. So one of the very nice guys in the village was let us know, as he saw we had more than one property. And so the deal was we could have the beso if we took the Minka. There's very much this feeling that Kominka are more of a millstone than they are an asset in the countryside, because land tax prices are higher if the land's vacant, so people don't want to knock them down. But obviously they are a lot of work, especially in the winter. So if that's his property, he still has to clear the roof, he still has to snow blow it, as well as his own house, and pay the taxes and stuff like that. So we said, sure, yeah, we'll do that. So we took both properties, and the idea was always with the beso to make it livable for 1 or 2 people and rent it long-term rather than short-term. Short-term rentals bring in a lot more money, doing Airbnb and things like that, but has no real benefit to the village. Whereas somebody living here full-time who gets involved with the community projects and does the village duties that we all have to do every couple of months, and maybe we'll once again buy a place in the village, or maybe even buy that place off me, who knows. Trying to bring people into these villages that are the population decreasing rapidly is really the whole point of this project. Yeah.
It sounds like a really good way to get people to try out living in the rural area and try out living in a Minka. This is something that I've talked to a few people about who moved from the city out, totally moved out to a rural area to try to make it work, not only for living there, but as business. And what they recommended was go and stay and visit many times before you buy something, because you might not connect or feel good about that community for some reason. Did you do a similar thing before you moved there?
We totally didn't, and we totally lucked out. We came to this area and several other areas in Nagano, Gunma, and etc. My criteria was good snow and countryside. My wife is not a big fan of the snow, so she was like, "Look, we can." Yeah, exactly.
This is your house in deep snow, right?
That's the view from the valley up to our house. Yeah. And that, you can only see the house because I've spent every day snow blowing the front of it. Otherwise, you would not be able to see it at all.
Amazing. But for people who love snow, it seems like a perfect place.
It's heaven. It really is. And Nozawa is the most famous ski joe in the area, but there's loads of other small, tiny ones here that are just as good and nowhere near as crowded. One of my local ski joes, there might be 10 people there when I go, even on a big snow day. And it's itchy man for a season pass.
What? That's $100.
Not even $100 at the current rate of exchange, about $85.
That is nothing for a season pass.
Yeah.
So all the lifts and everything, and you can take your dog on the lift as well.
You can't take your dog on the lifts. There's only 3 lifts. It's only a little ski joe, but they don't groom in the week. So whenever there's deep powder, there's just deep powder. For snowboarders and off country skiers, it's amazing.
Yeah. Anybody who looks at your Facebook feed sees a lot of envious snow as you're out enjoying powder every day, right?
It's very much a mixture of going snowboarding in the morning for a few hours, because I'm not 20 anymore, sadly. And then I come back, have some lunch, maybe go to the onsen, and then snow blow in the afternoon, so I can actually get my car out again the following day if I want to go riding. So I do try and post some of the snow blowing stuff as well as just the joy of snowboarding, because it is a lot of work. And this all ties into why we're trying to get people to come and stay here. So you asked me about what we did. We basically found a property, loved it. It ticked all our boxes. We moved in. Now, I know a lot of people haven't had the same experience we've had, where they've moved to a place in the countryside and everyone's been very welcoming and friendly, and it's been quite easy. We were the first Gaijin to move into our village, and it was amazing. Everyone's been mind-blowingly welcoming since we moved in, since day one. But we lucked out as well, because that house, the first house that we bought, is probably the easiest snow clear in the village. And that was totally by accident. So we were very, very lucky. So the idea is to get people to come and live here for a short time, because also if somebody buys a house here and then does a season and says it's too much, the snow, I can't deal with it, that doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't help anybody at all. Your advice that you were giving is 100% right.
Yeah.
Go and visit a place many times. If you can, stay there, rent somewhere there, live there for a short while. Not only will you get to know the local people and see if it's a fit for you, but if you do get to know the local people, properties that are not on the market will open up to you. Yeah. So many houses are not advertised.
I've heard that so much, that if you are interested in an area, you keep going back, you keep talking to the local people, you keep saying, I'm interested in renting something, or I'm interested in starting a little cafe, or you just keep saying it and keep showing up. And then eventually you'll start hearing the inside tips about places that might be open, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this place was not going to be on the market. The Akia in Nozawa had just started, and it was a guy in the village who was actually managing it for the village. And this place was not going to go onto the Akia, and they weren't motivated sellers. But once we contacted them and said, look, we're interested to take it off your hands. We did it just after the end of the winter, when they'd have to pay to have snow clearing done and all this sort of stuff. With a bit of negotiation, they were happy to pass it on. People in the village thought we were insane. People were asking us because it's possibly the oldest house in the village. People were asking us, why the hell are you buying this freezing? We moved in, it only had shoji windows. There was no glass.
Oh my gosh.
And people were living in here, had AC and shoji windows.
How?
I don't know.
How did they survive? They didn't even have like a fireplace heater.
There was a couple of iori, but they were covered by the tatami. So it was basically an AC, a warm and cold AC, and kerosene heaters.
Wow. So it looks like it's really cold in winter. How is it in summer? Is it pretty comfortable?
Yeah, well, Kominka are built for this sort of living. So what we actually find at the moment is it's way warmer outside our house than it is inside our house, even when it's sunny.
Yeah, we find that too in Hiroshima for our place. Yeah.
The thick walls, even though we've put massive windows in, not so much bright sunlight coming in and stuff. All these things help to keep it cooler in the summer, which is, for that 3 weeks in August, it's a godsend.
Yeah.
for sure.
It really, my son was complaining because he's like inside the house. It's a really warm day, like 25 degrees yesterday outside, and really kind of chilly inside. And he's like, I have to put on a hoodie. And I was like, you'll be happy for that in a month's time when it's too hot outside, right?
We're giving, this is our first summer in this house, so we're giving it a try without AC, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, great. Question from Get Hiroshima. Thanks for joining. Someone at the Minka Summit said that the Akiya Bank was a great place to make local connections and open up info networks as much as finding actual homes. So similar to what you were saying, right?
Yes, yeah. And what a few people have said to me, and it totally is true. The difference between the Akiya banks is made by 1 or 2 people. All it needs is 1 or 2 people working in the Akiya, working for the Akiya bank that are motivated to make this work and proactive, and the difference is night and day. Some of the Akiya banks, they're not. I mean, they are. They're kind of just government run and voluntary. They're not designed by web designers and things like this. So some of the pictures can be a bit meh, and the information can be a bit meh. But if having someone in there who is responsive to emails, positive, and wants to actually bring people to the local community, makes a massive difference. And those people are the people to speak to, and they can introduce you to so many people.
Yeah.
The Iyama Akiya Bank is fantastic. There's a guy there who's super forward thinking and really keen to make things work. When we looked around places with the Akiya here, he just take us, there's an English gaijin living over in the other side of the thing. Let's go and meet him. So we just rocked up at his house, and he just walked in. He's like, Richard-san. He was taking a nap at the time, and then we've become firm friends.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, these are the people that make the big difference for sure. The proactive people. It was really nice to see some at the Minka Summit. There was the guys from Nantan there. That's really great that they're getting out there and advertising rather than just sitting back and waiting for people to come to them.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more of your take on the Minka Summit in a minute. But just one more question about starting a business in the rural area. Sometimes when I visit these rural areas and you're like, oh God, this would be a great place for a cafe. Like none of the oceanfront places are being used. Oh, I'd love to take one over and start a cafe. And then you meet local people who say they're only allowed to buy the best properties with condition that they don't open a business, that they only use it as like a volunteer or education center or something. And so I just wonder, in your area, has there been any resistance to being an entrepreneur and starting a business to bring people in?
My only reason for thinking that people that would be a rule in a community or in an area would be because investors had bought up all the best properties for people not to live in, but as businesses.
Right. Yeah,
which is the case, which is what we were talking about up in Nozawa Village. A lot of it is absentee owners, investors coming in. Young people can't afford to live up there anymore. New families can't afford to buy a house in Nozawa. It's just impossible. So that would be the only reason I could think of why they would do that. I am sure 100% that I would get support from the local community if I wanted to open up something that was beneficial to the community, like a small cafe in my village and stuff. At the moment, there's not enough trade there to make it a viable business option. So it would be definitely more of a lifestyle / loss leader to bring people into the community. But yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard that.
Yeah. It's kind of, it might be dependent on the owner, like the particular owner, but it is an area, like we're doing an event there this month. So I'm trying to bring a lot of people there. It has a lot of young entrepreneurs, but there's still a resistance from some local people about development or changing too fast, right? So there's like more than half the houses are empty, but they're still very resistant to allowing outsiders to change it, right?
Interesting. I think, yeah, maybe approaching it more as a community project rather than a business. Even though it's, if it's going to be a business, it's got to be viable. Showing how it can benefit the community. Those things will really help to smooth the path forward, I think. the Kominka that came with the Besso down in the village here, for instance, Stephen, the guy who's renting my first property, he's going to take it on, and he wants to use it not as a place where his family can stay if they come and visit occasionally, but also we're going to convert it into a community space. So,
Nice.
so the yoga teacher can teach yoga in there.
Nice.
There's a really nice Japanese couple who've just bought a Minka in the village, but a little higher up. She's a massage therapist.
Nice.
So you can do massage in there. All these things that space can be used for, and then that really I think paves the way then for more expansion. I think a lot of villages in the Akia, they are very resistant to having nobody in the household who can speak Japanese.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But that's kind of understandable. There's a lot of paperwork to deal with. If something goes wrong with the house or in the village, there's nobody to communicate with. So that's going to be a big hurdle in a lot of areas.
Well, you guys can act as a bridge now that you're there.
Yeah, my Japanese is. I'm still learning for sure. Naomi's is perfect, but she obviously also has a full-time job. Yeah.
But that we heard that at the Minka Summit, right? A lot of people saying you want to be a part of the community, you want to show them that you're invested, but you also don't want it to take over your life, right?
Yes,
You know?
yes. At some point in the future, I hope to be the village eldest at some point in my future when I can speak much better Japanese. But yeah, I mean that comes with several meetings and lots of other stuff for sure.
Yeah.
My history.
Let's talk before I do want your thoughts on the Minka Summit, but let's just mention that you were not always a mountain guy. You started a scuba dive business in Indonesia in this beautiful small island. Are you still going back and forth? Is that the plan?
I haven't been back since we moved here in December 2019, just before COVID hit. I'd been living in Indonesia in Komodo for 11 years before that. I only went there for a week. I was on my way to Australia, and I went to Bali. Somebody recommended Komodo because Bali was very so I flew to Komodo with a week plan for diving, and still not been back to England. Did 11 years in Komodo.
Amazing. And you became a certified scuba instructor.
I was a dive master already, and then I became an instructor through necessity. Once I'd opened a little dive center on this tiny island, that was the dive center, literally built out of sand and cement bricks made between planks. The island had electricity 4 hours a day, no fresh water unless it was brought in by boat, no internet connection, and I spent 4 years living in 4 bamboo poles with a grass roof. Yeah, it was a very interesting experience. And then I moved to the mainland and built a massive liveaboard wooden boat, and then I lived there for another 7 years.
Is this the boat?
That's the boat. That was the first boat we built. Yes.
Beautiful. You built this.
I'm stretching the truth if I say I built it. The local carpenters and boatwrights built it. It was the first of its kind to be built in our village, in our town. We imported the wood from another area of Indonesia. The guys did it. I designed the layout and stuff and helped where I could. But yeah, amazing. A year and a half, 2 years of crazy carpentry.
Absolutely beautiful. Such a beautiful ship. So you've been deep under the ocean and high up on the mountains, like huge contrast.
Very different.
Indonesia versus Japan. Like, would you love to go back and like have half of your life in each place? Is that the aim?
After a while, Indonesia is a beautiful place, but for various reasons, it's a challenging place to live on a personal level. So I always said that Indonesia and Japan create the perfect mixture of madness and sanity. cleanliness and messiness. The two off balance each other very well. I think that'd be a great lifestyle for someone who hasn't already done 11 years in Indonesia. If you live in Indonesia for 3 or 4 months a year and 8 months in Japan, perfect, amazing. I will go back because I still own a big chunk of the company. I'm supposed to be retired and living off the company, but obviously COVID is.
COVID's been very hard for any travel-related industry, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We have a great question from LinkedIn from Seaman Azizi. Thanks for joining. I think the idea of reinvigorating Akiya is a great idea, but at what point does it become futile if Akiya represents a community while no longer there? So if the community is absent, it's difficult, right?
I'm sure there are villages out there in Japan that maybe they've reached that tipping point where the village is more empty than full. I think this is where going and living in a place before you actually move in, I think, will make the difference. You know, go and live there. See if there is still some community spirit and some potential there for things to grow. You can't do everything yourself. You don't want to throw your life into just that being your sole purpose for living. And I'm sure, sadly, there will be villages that will disappear eventually. I mean, the average age in Japan is not getting any lower at the moment. So, but finding the right place that's right for you and that's still got enough potential and enough community spirit there, I think it's possible. It might work. It might not work. Who knows? But it's fun to try, and it's quite a feeling of accomplishment every time we bring another person into the village who might actually make this their home. It not only adds to the numbers in the village and the people paying taxes and yada 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 yada. What it does is it adds more ideas and more energy. Everyone's got a new idea. Some people are coming in just bundles of energy with lots and lots and lots of ideas and really want to get involved, which is fantastic. And it only takes 2 or 3 of those people to move into one area or one community to make a massive difference. So yes, without being fatalistic, I'm sure there will be places that do not make it through.
One interesting thing, now I'm sure you see this in your village as well, is the government is very supportive of keeping these rural communities alive. So the government's so invested in trying to get people out there, trying to encourage new entrepreneurs, especially there's a lot of schemes for people under 40 to get financial support. It's even like a monthly bit of salary if you get one of these subsidies. So that is nice to see that the government is kind of helping people transition out of the cities and at least have a little bit of income while they're transitioning. I think that could really help, right?
For sure. I mean, it's not an inconsequential amount of money. One of the guys who's moving to our village, a couple who are friends of mine who've basically bought a Kominka on my recommendation. They've still never seen it because of COVID. And they will come as soon as the borders reopen. They instantly given $5,000 towards the renovations for moving into the area. Wow. The number that the Japanese government has allocated for countryside regeneration is in the billions. And this will make a massive difference to people, for sure. As long as that money is spent wisely and put into good projects. Every area is different. You really have to do some research into that. But most areas will have some sort of funding or benefits. There might be some paperwork. There might be some jumping through hoops. But it's there. It's out there to be used. So do take advantage of it.
And one of the big supports, I think, especially because a lot of people who transition out to rural areas, they will depend on their teleworking, working online income, right? Is having good internet, good broadband. And like the place we're doing the event at, in the middle of nowhere on an island, they just had really strong broadband put in. So that really attracts people to try and live out there and telework because you can, right?
One of the biggest hurdles to living in the countryside is that the countryside has very few jobs, and what jobs there are very badly paid. If you can find remote work, you can live in the countryside very easily.
Wonderful. Another question. Thanks for the reply. Have you found that reinvigorating Akiya is more popular amongst non-Japanese or the Japanese themselves? So we saw this at the Minka Summit, right?
Yes.
300 people, and most people at the summit were non-Japanese.
Yep.
So we're always asked this, and I'm sure you are as well, Ed. Why are the foreigners so interested in Minka and the Japanese are not? And it's more, I don't know. I guess we're coming from places that have a long tradition of remodeling houses, maybe.
Yep. I know in England, if I bought the same age of house in England, I wouldn't be able to put a nail in without filling out paperwork. So the Japan thing has a big benefit because I can do what I like to this Kominka. You can go the completely modern route, you can go the opposite route. But I think in Japan, the housing market here is very different to the rest of the world. 30, 40 years, a house is considered of no value. Whereas in the rest of the world, you buy a house, it's an investment for life. So a lot of people look at these houses that are 100, 250 years old and think, it has no value. There's no point in saving it. And also, if these are young people who are coming from the city, they're used to a certain amount of comfort and life, and it's hard to get that comfort in a Kominka. There's a lot of work to be done and a lot of yen to be spent if you want to make a Kominka up to the year 2000 sort of standards. It's very hard, but there are Japanese people moving. There are young Japanese couples interested. There are more and more people wanting to leave the city. And with COVID actually boosting the amount of companies that's allowing people to telework, it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
Definitely young Japanese families will be making the leap. And there are already. And those that are doing it, spread the word.
Yeah. I did a informer Twitter poll. And I said, would you consider moving to the rural area if you could find a nice house and property? And people are like, very appealing, but the number one complaint or worry was about bugs, about insects. So tell us, Ed, have you been overrun with insects?
No. We get the kamimoshi in the season, and it's like a wave that comes from the hill. So we have to escort them outside again. There are mosquitoes. It's the countryside. And we're surrounded by tambo. For 2 months of the year, we get a very beautiful frog chorus every day. There are bugs. There's always going to be bugs, but there's bugs in the city. You just don't see them as much.
That's what I think. Yeah. He says, Seaman also from LinkedIn says, great point. No modern internet, no work. They're considering a place in Niigata, although his wife is from Nagano. So maybe they're interested in Nagano too.
Niigata's great. Depending on the area, it gets even more snow than we do. One resort, we had 11 meters this year. One resort in Niigata got 20 meters.
Wow.
If you can.
All right, we got about 8 minutes, Ed. I would love to get your insights from the Minka Summit. Any great takeaways from that experience?
I met some very cool people in a lot of car parks.
Yay. We visited one of the remodeled Minka together, and that was just stunning, wasn't it?
How the young lady?
Yes.
I've told
with the
so
red
many people
roof
about that house. Oh my God.
Gorgeous.
You do not find a Minka.
She had added some natural light through the straw thatched roof.
Yes.
Even though it was a metal cover, she somehow had a skylight, and it was just a beautiful remodel. It was great to see.
Absolutely stunning. It was absolutely stunning.
Any other good houses you saw?
There was a lot of beautiful houses in that valley. Anywhere with a stream with fish in it sings to me. I love fishing, so I could live there in a heartbeat. And nice to see very, very different type of Kominka. Not just the roofs but the layout and the way they were made. You could tell that they were made for a different kind of lifestyle than we have up here in the deep snow country.
Yeah, like one of the houses, it's hidden behind a tree here, but when you took us outside, the house next to your house, which is part of your complex, really looks like our house with the wooden and the white plaster and like the Swiss Tudor style kind of outside farmhouse look.
Okay, so that's our garage at the moment.
Oh, that's your garage. But it's interesting to see the variety of Minka. Like Minka is not all one exact look, right?
No.
It depends on the area.
No. And the guy who was looking at going to Niigata, they're very famous for very big, very strong Minka. People are exporting the Niigata Minkas all over Japan because the timber is oversized. They're very strong. Yeah, it's the summit was amazing. The guys who put the work into it, props to them. That's just incredible.
Yeah, it was really good. A
Um,
little bit more vegetarian food would be nice to the dinner. Thank you for eating the pizza that I thought might be vegetarian and wasn't, that I passed on to
JJ.
you.
I tried to pick all the meat off it for you, but it just wasn't happening.
Yeah, I don't want to waste. I don't want to waste. But it was just such a beautiful location, and it was a drive from Kyoto every day. But what a beautiful drive.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
it was amazing. The whole area seemed very supportive of the summit going ahead and everybody coming in and surprised by all the interest. It would be great to see it continue.
I would love it to continue. I would love to have one up in this area. We've got lots and lots of Kominka here, all being done by different people on different budgets and stuff like that. It'd be great, and also different styles of Kominka as well. So, yeah, maybe in the future something in a different region as well. But if they can keep that, if they've got the energy to keep that going every year, it's only going to grow for sure. Yeah.
Now, Ed, you talked a little bit about getting to know your community, and then you use some of the old building materials for other projects. How about getting people to help you with the work? Because some of the remodel work is quite difficult to do by yourself, right?
Yes. So that is the dream. The dream is to find more and more houses in the village, bring them to a level where they're rentable and livable. But not only to make that my project, but to actually try and get some funding from the regional, from the prefecture, and make it a community project. There are so many massively still Genki Oji-chan, Oba-chan, who are in their 60s to 90s here, who've all got skills that surpass mine, I'm sure. And I would really like them to get involved. Now, I know during rice season it's very difficult because they're all very, very busy. But if I can just get one or two of those people to get involved, that would be amazing, absolutely amazing. And that's the dream.
How about like getting students involved? So collaborating with art students who can come use one of the Minka as a gallery, or students who wouldn't mind coming and volunteering a day and helping out with rice harvest or cutting weeds or clearing snow and stay and get some food or something in exchange. There's some ideas like that, right?
Definitely possibilities for sure. Yeah. My biggest problem is I am still trying to renovate this house. I am still kind of working for my business in Indonesia, and I don't speak hardly any Japanese still, even though I'm trying really hard. So I really need a partner in this, and I'm hoping, and maybe they're out there watching right now, who knows, that Stephen and Celinda, the guys who live in my Stratham Minka, they're going to be the driving force alongside me, I think. Hope you guys don't mind me mentioning your names. You guys are.
That would be great, wouldn't it? Because there's only so much one person can do.
Yes.
But if you have a team and you all kind of have the same aims or goals, even if you do it a different way, it's so much stronger of a movement, right?
Yep, definitely. The more people we can get involved, the better, and the more progress we'll make. Regenerating this amazing village that I live in, and it is amazing. I've absolutely fallen in love with the place, and it's been a dream to move here. Is definitely a big priority for me, and also trying to stop this village becoming an overspill for investors from the ski village also will be a big prospect, because as prices increase up there, more and more people will start looking down here. But yes, a minchka in the village would be awesome. Yes, one cafe in the village would be awesome. But mostly people living in the community and actually, living in their houses all year round and being part of the community, I think that make the big difference. Not just people buying the houses and turning them into rentals, short-term rentals. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? And I heard a few people at the Minka Summit talking about that. If you have a commitment that at least if you buy it as a holiday home, share it as a holiday home to make sure that people are there at least every weekend, to be a part of buying stuff at the local shop, going to local eateries, kind of investing in the economy that way.
Yep.
But if it's a guest house or a beso, like you said, like a second house that people only use like for a week of the year, that's really not building a good community, right?
No. And if they're only using it for a week a year, then renting it out on like a daily basis or whatever, then it's just a lot of strangers in the village constantly driving through who maybe are not as careful when they're driving down the tiny little roads as could be. It's just, it's not something that I personally have any problem with. I've worked in tourism and dealing with guests for forever, but it's not as beneficial. We need a baseline of people here first to make that work, I think.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yes.
And then if you have people running guest house who are there full time, then you can welcome in people who are coming for a short term and still have that base of a good community, right?
Yes, and have people from the village providing the vegetables, or somebody who's a wicked cook, which I'm sure there are many in the village. I'm not one of them. Can come in and do the cooking. So a guest house adds value to the area. We have one already. A Japanese couple down in the village. They run a rider's house. So it's like for people on motorcycles.
Motorbikes, yeah.
They're an amazing couple. They moved to the village 25 years ago from Tokyo to run this guest house, and yeah, they are. He's my hero.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, you need a team. You can't. It's really hard if you're the only one trying to keep it alive, right?
Yes. And my long-suffering wife does what she can, but she has a full-time job as well. So.
Yeah, which you're grateful for. Another stream of income, I'm sure, right?
Hell yeah! During COVID, very grateful.
Well, thank you so much, Ed. That was wonderful talking with you and catching up after the Minka Summit. Thanks,
JJ.
so much.
It was amazing to meet you. I hope we get to welcome you in Nagano at some point. Wendy's joining us tomorrow for a few hours to come and look.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wendy's going to come down to my women's event next week, so that'd be awesome to see her then. Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. A great chat. I would love to catch up again and talk about the Beso and the other people that you're renting to. It sounds like they have great stories as well.
Yes, I can introduce you to the spiritual pretzel that lives in our rental cottage.
Sounds awesome. Get that massage therapy, yoga, the guest house, the food, the farmers. You've got a whole great set of your community there.
For sure.
Thanks so much, Ed. Have a great day.
Hi, JJ. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.